All right, so somebody who's been applauded for her work on the African continent, Melinda Gates, about to deliver the 13th Desmond Tutu International Peace Lecture at the Cape Town International Convention Centre. You'll see there that she will be in conversation with a moderator. Let's take you live to the Convention Centre.
For her junior year of high school. So I spent a fair bit of time here while she was in Johannesburg, and also the CEO of our foundation, Mark Suzman, his great aunt is Helen Suzman. So South Africa holds a very special place in my heart.
We're more than happy to have you, Melinda, and so excited for this conversation. And I suppose a really good place to start is just to pinpoint some of the projects that you are working on in this part of the world, and maybe have you share with us a little bit about what have you been up to on this current trip?
Well, on this current trip, I'm doing something I've never done, which is I'm actually traveling with two other women, former First Lady Michelle Obama and Amal Clooney, who heads the Clooney Justice Foundation with her husband. And it's been a really special trip. We were in Malawi for 2 days, in particular to understand what's going on for girls in Malawi around child marriage. We wanted to go really deep on that issue, which we did. And then we've been here in Cape Town now for 2 days as well, and learning about many things, but also including with many survivors of gender-based violence this morning, and civil society who's working on those issues.
I have no doubt that we're going to touch on child marriage, we're going to touch on gender-based violence, but the world is in a tough place. The global agenda is crowded. What is it that keeps you focused on doing the work of bringing about a more gender-equal world?
It's because if we want to create change in this world, we have to work towards change. And I believe the only thing that is going to create lasting peace and change on this continent and the world is to empower women everywhere and to make sure they can step into their full power. We know that when there's more equality in a country, the country is more peaceful. We know when a woman has her full power in her home, her family is more prosperous, they're more healthy. We know then that women can contribute to their community and they can contribute to society. And so I believe that we need to make sure women can have the rightful place in society. And I work very hard to team up with others, men and women, who believe that as well and are willing to put that faith in that belief. We have to have faith in something and to put that faith into action.
I want to, absolutely. Melinda, I think I'd love to double click on this relationship between gender equality and peace, because there could not be a more important time to talk about peace in the world than right now. We know that when there's conflict, that it is women and children that are likely to be displaced. It is women and children who are most likely to slip into poverty and hunger because of the economic disruption. We know that it's women and children who are likely to be the victims of sexual violence, because we know that sex can be used as a weapon of conflict. And all of that actually correlates with an increase in child marriages in those afflicted societies. Tell us a little bit more about how you see the relationship between gender and peace.
Well, I see gender and peace as a full circle. I was on a stage last night with Graça Michel.
Yes.
And, you know, one of the things that she says and that she knows from her many years of doing this work, as well as, you know, I think Mama Leah knew it, and I think Desmond Tutu knew it, Mandela knew it, that, you know, we have to value girls. We have to value girls the same as boys, and we have to value women the same as men. And for whatever reason, society, you know, we marry our children off. If we marry a girl, a little girl, to a man, an older man, we are immediately locking her into a cycle of poverty. She is too young to have a baby, and yet she's expected to.
Yeah.
She ends up with obstetric fistula or sometimes death. Her child, you start the cycle of poverty right there for that child, because the children are often born preterm.
Yeah.
And they're low birth weight, and often they're stunted. So, but it comes down to, what do we value in society? Why are we marrying our girls young? Why don't we marry our boys young if we're going to marry somebody young, right? And so when you look at that issue, which is horrific, or you look at gender-based violence, what does gender-based violence do to a woman? It silences her. It puts her in a state of trauma. So without amazing counseling and healing and being able to stand back in her power, which is very, very hard, you are putting her in a terrible back situation. And that just shouldn't be. And on the flip side, when we have women at peacemaking making tables, so what we have come to know is only about 6% of mediators at these large peace tables are women, 9% of the people at the peace tables are female negotiators. But when they are there and their voices are heard and what is codified in those peace treaties, what happens is you get more long, durable, and lasting peace. So over a 15-year period, that durable peace is 35% more likely to stay, that society, peaceful, if a woman was at the table.
So, assuming the woman is at the table and we're able to see that long-lasting, sustainable peace, how do we get that to translate to peace at home? And the reason why I ask this question is because even as we talk about gender-based violence, or whether we're talking about child marriage, all of this is probably deeply rooted in, you've said it, how we value girls and how we value women, and in cultural and gender stereotypes. Where have you seen us reimagining gender? And do you think that we have the capacity to transplant some of that reimagination back into the home?
I know we have the capacity. We all have it in us. And it is in the home. That is where it starts. We need to rethink how we talk to young boys about the men they are to become. We need to give them more role models of, this is the type of man you could be. You know, of the 36 archetypes of men that you see out there, wow, here are 24 archetypes that are just amazing. And so it starts in the home. I mean, we teach, again, I brought up for a reason that I have a daughter, a son, and another daughter. Like, what I taught all 3 children about bullying, and whether it happened to them on the playground or they saw somebody else being bullied, I expected them to stand up for themselves, but for other people on the playground, and to report it to me, to somebody else. And guess what? They did. But that starts in the home. I expected my children to act a certain way and be a certain person, even when they're young. And I think we all have to think about, you know, what's happened in society that we've gotten to this place. South Africa, I know, looks some at itself and says, how did we get here? Well, I think there's generational trauma. And you have a lot of, men we have been in very difficult, very traumatic situations. But we have to, in our homes and in our communities and in our faith groups, reimagine what life can be like for men and boys. And I think by doing that in concert with other men, standing with women, and being in our homes and teaching the right way, we can change society. We absolutely can. But it does start in our home and in our community. It's a very local place it has to start. And then we have to make sure we empower women fully to step into their power, so they are making decisions for society. They are equally members of parliament, or equally in our senates and our House of Representatives, so that they're not just the recipients of policies, they're creating the policies that will make things better for children, starting there and all the way through society.
Absolutely, I'll take that. And what I'm hearing you say is that even as we push for women to step into their power. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that concept, because I hear you talking about women stepping into power rather than women empowerment. And I know that there's a difference for you in that. That as we do the work of enabling women to step into their power, we do it while making sure that the boy child is not being left behind, while we're creating pathways for men to step into that allyship. But one of the things you talk about, Melinda, is this idea that when women progress, when women are uplifted, we uplift the whole of society as well. And you talk about a ripple effect. Paint that picture for us for a little bit. What is the source of that ripple effect, and what sustains it? And how can we leverage that catalytic impact of really allowing women to step into their power as a way of lifting whole societies?
Well, I believe when we're born, we're all inherently good. Like, we're all inherently, this beautiful child that's born on the first day, right? And a little boy and a little girl each have power inside of them. So it's not up to us to empower a young girl. It's up to us to help her see that she has value, society values her, she has her power, and to help her step into it. And the difference is, if you go back in the global development community, which I've now been a part of for over 20 years, shame on us. Shame on us. We did two things wrong, or we did many things wrong, but two things. One is, we first of all only measured maternal mortality.
Yeah.
We measured childhood mortality and infant mortality and maternal mortality. We did not measure other things about women's lives.
Yeah.
We did not look at their financial power. We didn't even talk about adolescent girls, much less learn about them and their needs and what they needed. And then the other mistake the development community made was to talk about empowering a girl.
Right.
Well, it's not enough to empower a girl or a woman. Here's the difference. So let's say a man is the main income breadwinner in the home, and he's got, 5,000 Rand, and he gives her 2,500 Rand.
Yeah.
But she doesn't get to decide how to spend it. He says, here's how you're going to spend it. Then she has lost her decision-making ability and her power. Whereas if she gets $2,500 and she gets to decide how it's used, or she becomes the breadwinner and she's the one earning the 5,000, it changes everything. And I've met women and grandmothers in communities who say, everybody looks at me differently now that I have an income. Everybody. The grandmother says, men come to me for a loan. The woman says, my son looks at me differently. I can buy him a bike. My daughter looks at me differently because I can educate her. My husband looks at me differently. And so we need to really help women step into their full places of power, and then make sure they get these leadership roles across society,
right,
so that then we can look out and see 36 archetypes of powerful women and say, wow, a girl looks up and goes, I don't want to be those kind of 6 women, but I'd like to be one of those 30, right? When we get there, we will really have helped women step into their equal power in society.
Sure.
All right, that's Melinda Gates in conversation with Nozipo Chabalala, talking about the power inherent in young girls, nurturing that, harnessing it to uplift societies. She is essentially delivering the 13th Desmond Tutu International Peace Lecture, and this lecture also serving as a tribute to Leah Tutu, and of course a tribute to her 90th birthday. All right, by the way, if you'd like to continue following that discussion, you are most welcome to go to SABC News' YouTube page, and there it is being streamed live.